topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Good morning. Welcome to Next. I'm very excited to have the show, and thank you for tuning in. We have a good regular crowd that tunes to our shows. And the reason I started Next is because there's so many people doing exciting things later in life or midlife, or even as young people. They're starting to think that they have a career in a certain direction, and guess what? They need to do something next. Today, I have a fabulous person with me, Michelle Johnston, Dr. Michelle Johnston. She's a distinguished professor at Loyola University. She's won many awards, recently a Leadership Guru Award, which is very prestigious. And she just came out with her next. I guess it was in just recently, the seismic shift in you. And with that, I'd love to introduce Dr. Michelle Johnston. Michelle, thank you so much for being able to come on board. Don't you look cheery today?
I'm so happy to be with you, Linda. You're one of my favorite people, and you're really a trailblazer in the leadership community. And so I love when I get a chance to have a conversation with you.
Well, and we're gonna have a conversation this weekend with our dear mentor, who's turning 77, Marshall Goldsmith, and we're gonna be at his birthday. He doesn't look like. See, he's another perfect person as an example of next, right?
Correct. I mean, Marshall wrote this book with me. We were in London in 2023 at the Thinkers 50 Awards,
right?
And all of the top thinkers and management and leadership were talking about how in the world are we going to compete in the leadership world with AI. And every single speaker, without collaboration, without knowing that each was talking about the same thing, they were saying we have to lean in with more heart and humanity of what differentiates us as humans. And I looked over at Marshall. I said, Marshall, we've got to write a book about this. Will you be my co-author? And he said, yes. And that was a beautiful moment, because you're right, Linda, he didn't have to. He's at the time, he was what, 75?
75, I would say, yes.
He didn't have to say yes. He didn't have to say yes, but he said next.
He said next. And here it was so interesting. And last year, 25, I guess, we were all in London at Thinkers 50, and you were launching the book with Marshall.
You're absolutely right. So 2023 in London at Thinkers 50, I realized, holy smokes, this is another seismic shift. We've got to talk about it. No more command and control and just leading with directives and ego. Like, that's not working anymore. And so we agreed to write the book. I took a year sabbatical from Loyola to write the book with Marshall. And then you and I met. We flew to London. We met in London. We rented a fabulous Airbnb.
Yes, we did. We had a blast.
And we attended Thinkers 50 again. And thankfully, at that Thinkers 50 2025, I had the opportunity to launch. That was my global launch. And so
it was great.
It was fantastic. We had you were there.
I was so proud to be there with you. It was just so exciting, and everybody was so excited for you. And, Thinkers 50, let's face it, it's a pretty great crowd. And here you think you're with everybody who's written books, myself included, and you think, oh, it's really going to be a stuffy thing. There's nothing stuffy about Thinkers. We had a ball.
Yeah, because think about it. These are the people who are really comfortable with discomfort. Because in order to grow,
statement.
In order to grow, you're going to be uncomfortable. I teach my MBA class on Monday nights, and I took them on a connection walk last night because of daylight savings.
Oh, how cool. Do tell us.
Yes. So they're night classes. So our MBA program is for the working professional. So our classes are from 6:20 until 9:05. And
sounds like how I got my MBA.
yeah, exactly. And so usually it's dark, right? But not this Monday. It was no longer dark. And I said, we're going to take a connection walk. And we walked through the beautiful campus of Loyola, and we're right across the street from a beautiful park, Audubon Park. And I was sharing with them because I had just come back from this incredible weekend in Nashville with all these remarkable women, and it's called the Remarkable Women Award. And I was completely humbled and honored to have received the New Orleans Remarkable Woman Award. So they flew all of the 125 remarkable women in the market. Nexstar Media puts it on every year. So I was representing ABC News. So they flew us all to Nashville. And the point in what I shared with my students last night and what I'll share with you all today is really so many times up until that point when I just get to celebrate with these remarkable women doing great things, with growth comes unbelievable discomfort.
Yes.
And, I was trying to talk with them last night, like, you have beautiful gifts. All of you have beautiful gifts as humans, and figure out what those beautiful gifts are. And then when you feel that it's your time and you can really lean in and help others and have a platform and make an impact and make a difference, you will feel uncomfortable and yet push through it because it's worth it. And I feel like that's why Thinkers 50 it's not stuffy at all, because these are all people so used to being uncomfortable because they're constantly growing and changing and leaning in and trying to make a difference.
And thinking about their next and executing against it and figuring out how they can move into their next discomfort zone, because that's really what it's all about, to tell you the truth. So Michelle, tell me what give us the nutshell. And and by the way, congratulations on that award. I saw that. And you've been on Kate Snow's show too, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm about to start it again. So after we got back from London, you and I flew back home. You flew to North Carolina. I flew to New Orleans. And then I did my big launch party. I threw a big connection event in New Orleans with about 220 leaders, which was so much fun. And then I flew to New York for my media launch, and I got to be on NBC News with Kate Snow. And as a matter of fact, Linda, right after you and I are going to be in New York this weekend, she asked me to be on her show again, which just means it validates what I'm seeing in the world. And you had asked about what am I seeing in the world, right?
Right.
The seismic shift in you is we have to shift. And Marshall and I believe there are 7 necessary shifts that
first let me give you a round of applause for how well you're doing on all of this. And I've been following all your stuff, and it's just really impressive. You're doing a great job, because I remember in that Airbnb when the launch started, you were leaning in. So let's talk about the book.
Well, thank you. That means so much coming from you. You understand what it's like, particularly as a woman, and to put yourself out there and to feel really passionate about something, that it's worth it. And I thank you. I appreciate it. And yes, it is all so exciting. And yes, so the seismic shift in you is, I realized that if we're going to make changes, I honestly thought this next book was going to be about the culture, like how to shift a culture so that it's a culture of connection, not a culture of fear. That was my original premise, until you and I were in London, and I realized, no, it's not about looking and fixing a culture. The seismic shift has to start within. We all have the agency to make significant change right now, leaning into connection. I believe, and all of the research supports me, that better connection equals better results. So if you are listening right now, and whether you're a leader of your house, of Little League, of your church, of a nonprofit, of a small business, or a global Fortune 500 company, you want to create an environment where your people feel motivated, where they feel engaged, where they're productive, because that all drives your bottom line, right? And the only way you're going to get those things is it starts with you. The seismic shift has to start with you.
Right. right. And you know that the big piece of that is leadership starts with you. You can go to a bazillion classes, but it starts right in here.
Correct. And here's the biggest shift that Marshall and I realized is one of the things, particularly in America, that we do really well is we do achievement well, right?
Right.
We go, 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 go.
Right.
And sometimes at a very high cost to
Mm.
our physical, mental, and emotional health.
Right.
And so what Marshall and I started seeing is that those leaders who only went after task, 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 achievement, 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 next, 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 title, promotion, they
Right.
get to the very top and they say, oh, wow, where are my most important relationships? I went after all of the what rather than the who. So the number one seismic
Great point.
shift, the number one seismic shift we feel right now in 2026, in the middle of all of the changes that are happening, is we have to shift our perspective from what to who.
To who? Great point.
That's going to create this connection lens that is actually going to get you what you want. So if you're trying to drive performance and drive financial results, it's going to take your people to do that, right? And if you then show up as somebody, a leader who cares about your people, because you care about yourself first and you have figured out how to have a more balanced life, how to focus on relationships, how to schedule time for your well-being, then all of a sudden you're modeling the way and you're saying, you know what, I can't have a Zoom at 6 a.m. or even 7 a.m. because I've got to exercise and I want to take my kids to school because that's important to me. Those relationships are important to me with myself and with my family. And then when I show up at work, then I'm going to prioritize you because you matter. So it's focusing on the who rather than the what.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And I think a lot of people get stuck. They really get stuck at work in the task, is what you're really saying, and really trying to achieve, rather than really thinking through what's really right for me. What are the right relationships that I need to have? How do I build those relationships? And you know, a lot of people don't have the courage to think about how they make those shifts and I'm using next, what's next for them that's going to really build them emotionally, psychologically, and build the connections that they really need to be happy and healthy. So
I love the way you just articulated that, because the next, rather than looking at the next as
job,
next promotion, the next to do, the next task, is to look at it. Yeah. What relationships can I focus on that will elevate me and will elevate my team and will elevate the company for our next? So it really is a shift in perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a totally different perspective. I do have a woman that I worked with. She had a very high-powered job at GE, very high-powered job. She was in finance, which are the high-powered jobs at GE when it was a high-powered place. And she just said, this is not for me anymore. And she went, and her next was a bed and breakfast. And it's just happy, happy, happy. And it was really, really interesting. Not to get on that, Michelle, but you have 7 shifts in your book. Can you give them to us
Absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. So that first major shift is a whole shift in your perspective from what to who. The second shift is the most important. Who is you? So it's the shift in prioritization, because what Marshall and I were seeing is all these leaders we were coaching were saying, oh my gosh, I gained 30 pounds last year. I don't have a good relationship with my family. I haven't made dinner, maybe one night a week for the past year. My cholesterol's out of control. And we're hearing these things like, okay, this is not good, because they're not prioritizing themselves. And if they're not prioritizing themselves, then there's no way they're showing up as the best leader they can be. So the second shift is shift your priorities, and the most important who is you.
Wow.
The third shift is shift your calendar so that it reflects the most important people in your life. So the quote here I like to say is, show me your calendar and I will show you your priorities. And it might make you really uncomfortable, because if I were to ask you and I right now to write down the most important relationships in our life right now, both personally and professionally, and then take out our calendars.
You, of course, Michelle.
You too, and we get to see each other in New York.
I-
Would the most important relationships be on our calendar? And a lot of the people right now who are in those hard driving organizations and work cultures right now, the phase of their life that they're in, oftentimes they say, oh my gosh, I look at the calendar and I'm nowhere on the calendar because I haven't prioritized myself. So I don't have time to exercise, to eat lunch, for bio breaks, to pick up my kids. So I'm not on the calendar. And that means then the most important people, my family and my close friends, are not on the calendar. I'll give you an example. I got to see Dr. Vivek Murthy last year at the New Orleans Book Festival, and he wrote the book Together. He was our U.S. Surgeon General under Joe Biden, under President Biden. Vivek Murthy was the first U.S. Surgeon General to recognize, by going on a listening tour, that the health crisis we were in was loneliness and disconnection.
Right,
and he wrote a book about it. So I'm listening to him this time last year at the New Orleans Book Festival, and he said, I'll be honest with you all, once I did the listening tour and realized this was the number one issue that I have to focus on, was loneliness and disconnection. And then I started realizing that I too had fallen victim to this task, next title. I got to the very top of my field and I hadn't seen my childhood friends. I hadn't seen my college friends. I hadn't seen my friends in so long because they no longer were on my calendar. So he said, the thing I did for myself is I put the most important relationships, including my personal relationships, back on the calendar. So that's shift 3, which is shift your calendar. And then we have shift 4, which we need to shift the way that we're showing up for meetings.
Great one.
This is what I'm on Kate Snow, NBC, this Monday about, is people are hating virtual meetings.
Oh, yeah, true.
And what we hear is at the end of the day, they feel like Zoom zombies. And let me tell you,
I like that, Zoom zombies.
They're just fried. They don't have any energy left at the end of the day. And here's what we're finding is that productivity without connection equals emptiness. So they're going through the day, and Zooms are now just being utilized as just transaction. You hop on a Zoom, you've got an agenda. Here's what we need to accomplish. What do we need to do? Okay, bye. There's no connection. We don't have those organic opportunities to do the chit chat. How you been? How are your children? What'd you do this weekend? What's going on? There's none of that connection. We just hop on. It's all transaction and it's accomplishment of goals. So at the end of the day, because we're humans, we inherently need connection like we need food and water.
Yeah, right.
If we're on these virtual Zooms all day, we're just feeling like a Zoom zombie at the end. So we need to shift our meetings so that they focus more on connection and not transaction.
Totally true. And give us the next couple quickly, if you can.
Absolutely, yes. And so the next shift is conversations, so that conversations are more inclusive and we ask those open-ended questions and we're building bridges. Shift in language. Marshall taught both of us, Linda, to not say the word but.
Oh, that's true. $5 if we say but.
We have to pay money if we say but around our mentor, Marshall Goldsmith. He makes lots of money for people using the word but. It discounts anything that precedes it. So eliminate but. Yes. And then the last shift is shift your energy, because even on these virtual calls, energy is palpable and it's contagious and it affects others. So again, if you go back to the first shift, and you focus on relationship, and the second shift, you focus on yourself, then recognize how important it is to show up with the best energy you can.
So beautiful. I absolutely love that. Now, if you have some advice for anybody, well, first of all, I loved your book. Let me get that out. If anybody has not bought it yet, please go out and get the Seismic shift. It's on Amazon, right, Michelle?
Correct.
And it's just great, and it's a good read, and it's not and it's not it's not a tough read. It's a good read, and it's right there, and it hits you right where it needs to hit you. So give me three things you want people to walk away from this discussion.
Number one, I want you to focus and recognize the most important who is you. Put yourself on your calendar. Prioritize yourself. Make sure that you're getting what you need to be a healthy human. If you can prioritize yourself, then you can prioritize other people, right? So the only way you're going to be really good at connecting with others and using the right language and showing up with positive energy is by seismically shifting the priority to you. So that's the biggest seismic shift, right? If we want to be great at connection, which we have to be right now, because let's face it, we are in a disconnected world and people are suffering. So we have to do things differently. So disconnection is killing us. It's the equivalent of smoking 16 cigarettes a day.
And it's creating loneliness.
Big time loneliness. So that's my last point. If you want to keep doing what you're doing. If you want the equivalent of smoking 16 cigarettes a day, I would hope that your listeners are like, no, I don't want that. Then we need to shift our perspective, our priorities, our calendar, the way we run meetings, the way that we speak. We need to focus on connection.
And even in our personal lives, I think that's really, really true. Now, one final thing, Michelle, this has just been great. I love talking with you, but how do people get a hold of you? Because they need to bring you into their organizations.
Oh, I would love that. Any way that I can help. Yes. So go to my website, michellekjohnston.com. I'm also all over Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, Michelle K. Johnston, and holler at me. I would love to help in any way I can.
Great. And thanks for doing this. And I'll see you in New York in a couple of days. Bye, great. Michelle. And thanks everybody for listening to this show. I hope you got a lot out of it. I certainly loved it. And Michelle is clearly a powerhouse in all of this. Thanks very much. Talk to you next week. Bye.